All right, so interesting topic today, but it really is true. Sometimes I'm clueless when it comes to just basic things in life. I think this trading thing seems to be working out so far, but like I'm always forgetting to take the garbage out. I had my production notes on this video, and I don't know where it is. I think I left it in Florida or something. Who knows? So I'm just gonna wing it. All right, so we'll give it a shot. I don't want to talk about losing, but let's take a look at these babies here. Fresh from the garden. So I guess there's some winning involved, and these are so good. Fresh tomatoes from the garden. You can't get anything better than that. Well, maybe a couple winning trades in Bitcoin, but let's talk a little bit about losing today. I get a lot of feedback, and I see the comments in either YouTube and our community about losing, and they kind of like want to avoid it. All right, and it's kind of really important because losing is really part of this game. So let me look at here's some of the notes I scribbled, and I went back into some of our member notes. Let's look at this one here too. I want to get funded, Mike, but I want it fast and with little losers. I don't like losing trades. Okay. Let's look at the next one. I had a few losers, but I managed to have a winning trade just before the close and ended up positive for the day. Well, woo-hoo. All right. So these are the type of comments I get. And I understand in the development process, I was there too. I mean, you want winning trades. And when I was looking for strategies, I always wanted that sort of high win rate. I kind of still do, actually, even though my win rate is actually pretty poor in regards to, sort of the norm. Everybody wants 60, 70, 80%. Mine's lucky if it tops 50. All right. But what I want to address here is they bring up the point that they don't like losing. Well, who does? But really, we're in the business of losing. We're in the business of managing loss. Right? And I know it's tough. Everybody, wants to win, right? However they define that, right? And we're going to look at a different definition of how I feel a winning trader defines, success or wins as opposed to losses. But recently I was watching the NHL Hockey Stanley Cup Finals, and it was Edmonton versus Florida. Two teams just really battling it out. And in game two, the Stanley Cup champions of the prior year, the Florida Panthers, lost that game. All right. And then in the third game, I think, they won in the third game. So I redug some of my notes, at least my scribbles, and I wrote down the quote that I was watching this post-game show, and they interviewed some of the players. And this is really interesting. I want to bring this up. The first one is the quote and this is after game two, where Edmonton lost in double overtime. It's a crushing blow, arguably one of the biggest games of a lot of these players' careers. All right, we're a little down now, of course, but we played a very solid game and took advantage of our opportunities in overtime. Any bounce can determine the outcome, and it just didn't happen for us tonight. If we continue to focus on what we can control, I'm confident we'll be fine. That focus is what got us to the finals in the first place, and we'll just go with that and see where it takes us. Now, that's really impressive. This team and this player just lost in double overtime for game two. All right, it's a crushing blow. But basically looking and saying, okay, we actually played pretty well. We're going to do an assessment, but for the most part, just the bounce didn't go our way tonight. All right, they lost. But this is their reaction. I think it's pretty impressive. Okay, so I'm going to go with one other quote. And this is from Florida, who lost the prior 2 days before that. All right. This is on the losing side. We have to execute better. We left too many gaps in our defense, and our goalie, the person who defends the net, could only do so much. We have to correct that. All right. So they're going right into sort of journal assessment mode. All right. And saying, look, we cannot do that. We have to make a change. We have to be more conscious, things, stuff like that. Where the other time, team was just like sort of accepting it and saying, we actually did pretty good. Maybe there's some things we got to work on, but we'll just continue what we're doing. And that's what got us here. And let's just the chips fall where they may. And when you get into double overtime, I mean, basically it's just the bounce of a puck. It's really a 50-50 type game. And usually maybe a slightest little mistake is what really wins the game or loses the game. All right. But this pretty impressive approach to losing. Notice that they sort of both accepted it. And they also have a tone where they're moving on. Just that's it. Enough. We're moving on. And that's really important when we have losing trades or a losing series of trades. As soon as that trade is closed, you could do everything you need to do, bitch and moan, throw laptops, whatever you want to do. But really, other than assessment and diagnosing or doing something that's going to help improve in the future, you just have to move on and just really refocus for the next game or, in our case, the next trade or series of trades. All right. So I want you to think about going forward because I see too many traders getting too granular, all right? And even the students that I teach, right? They're so focused on that one trade that day, all right? Let's take a deep breath, take a step back. This is a good sort of mini lesson for the next half, second half of 2025. All right, so I've done a deeper dive and a couple of stats on some of these peak performers in sports. All right, and I've been learning a lot about them as part of my peak performance training and development that I've really been focusing on the last year or two. Nothing to do with trading, but actually is really rolling over into my trading and performance. So look at Steph Curry, arguably one of the greatest NBA players, at least currently, 42.3% three-point execution success rate. I mean, if I said that's my winning trade success rate, I'd probably thrown off YouTube. All right. Well, mine isn't actually that much higher. All right. So, greatest player in the world fails 57% of the time on his 3-point plays. Wayne Gretzky, arguably one of the greatest hockey players, at least offensively, that ever lived, had the most goal scorers ever by an NHL player, and just passed up by Ovechkin earlier this year. All right. Do you think Wayne Gretzky was upset? Maybe he didn't score in every game. He would walk and sulk, even on winning games. No, he just said, get it the next time, right? He's the greatest goal scorer that ever lived, or he's now number 2. All right. So was he pissed that he didn't score a goal in the game? No, he just focused on the game and really focused on the outcome, which was the win itself. All right. McKinnon, Draisaitl, one more example. And this is from the Edmonton team that we just talked about. All right. McKinnon played a role in 44% of all the team's goals. That means he either got the goal or he assisted to pass to another player to get the goal. 44% of the time. So that's 56% of the time he wasn't involved in it. All right. So how does he feel? Feels crappy? No. It's his goal is to get the overall win and really get him to the Stanley Cup Finals and hopefully win the Stanley Cup, which unfortunately Florida beat them in, I believe, 6 games. Look at this approach from peak performance. This is something I really want you to think about in your development. Think about the bigger picture. And how do we do that? Let's go for a few takeaways now so I'll leave you with so you could start using these on Monday. All right, first one. Start to think about why, and I say we as a community, and myself is included, we put so much emphasis on that daily result. All right, it really is not that important. It's a journey, like some of these peak performers are saying. Is we're building up to win ultimately, the championship, the prize, so to speak, and that really is longevity. It's not about being profitable for the day, and more importantly, having a losing day late in the day and then doing something, out of compliance to get you positive. I see that a lot too. All right. Not good. All right. And when we see is, traders put in their journal, okay, positive day, or you'll even see that grid, even on TradeZella would give you that monthly profile of how many days you were positive. I kind of, freak out a little bit over that too. I understand it's, you want to see a bigger picture and I'm all for that. But, every day, it doesn't really matter if you were correct 14 out of the 30 days or 12 or even 25 of the 30 days. The key is you have a positive strategy with Edge and you're taking advantage of that. And I know that's something that everyone's sort of seeking. Click on the link below. I have my secretary strategy. I just give you all for free. Link, no upsells, nothing like that. Just, pure watch the video right on YouTube. All right, next. Why is a losing P&L trade always considered a loser? Right? We're referring or connecting the dollar amount of win or loss in relationship to the losing trade. Really, it should be redefined. Did you execute your trade effectively? That really is the ultimate winning trade. If you keep on doing that and you have a strategy with positive expectancy, like we talked about earlier, and you're going to have winning trades where maybe it just didn't work out right. All right. But we want to make sure we measure that compliance rate. The market's not always going to cooperate. That's what randomness is all about. And we sort of accept that randomness as part of our journey of being successful traders. So I want you to really think about this more about outcome. Why is this outcome so important on such a little piece of the big picture journey? Something I just want you to think about, something to put in your development plan. I'm always have to be reminded of this too. I'll even say, oh, good day. I stopped watching my P&L. I won't even look at it sometimes for a whole month. All right. I know kind of how I'm doing. Every once in a while I get the itch. I want to check something, especially if I had like a good day or two. It's like, but it's about being compliant and taking the bigger picture and not necessarily worrying about being profitable every day. I want to chuckle a little bit too is sometimes, in a lot of traders will have like say a 70% win rate. And that's fantastic. All right. But understand that 30% of the time, it's not going to work out. All right. So when 30% happens, sometimes we get a little flustered, especially if they come in chunks. And I know that feeling of sort of that setback. Setbacks totally suck. All right. But really, if you look at it like from I've seen these examples in like commission sales or things like that when, the salesperson gets a no. Well, they look at a positive person and say, well, that's great because now I'm one step closer to the yes. All right. I got my 30%. Now I'm one step closer. The next, few are probably going to be maybe 3 or 4 winners in a row. So the math ultimately will dictate your path over a series of trades, but don't let 1 or 2 losing trades, which is really normal, say in a 30% losing environment or even a 50%, dictate your path or get you frustrated and flustered. And that allows you to lose focus on the next trade because that next trade is probably going to be, at least the math is saying, probably going to be the winner. All right, next, and I want to put this sort of in the concern box a little bit, is did we manipulate our trading to get the W? All right, to get that win for the day. So like I mentioned earlier, maybe you're up and down, you're scalping and you're maybe a little bit down for the day. And then all of a sudden you had one last trade and maybe it wasn't the perfect setup. In fact, it probably maybe not even part of your plan. And you got like 4 pips because you were down 3 pips for the day. You got the 4, close it out. You got your W. All right. W, TradeZilla, woohoo. All right. W. Who are you hurting? You're really hurting yourself, right? You're sort of manipulating the numbers to kind of give you that thing, that comfort, right? Well, comfort, think about it, is about being in this business and being successful and profitable over a long period of time. And really what that's doing is not only deceiving the numbers, but it's really deceiving your growth plan and your viability as a long-term successful trader. All right, so I get the argument a lot too. And I understand it too. Say, Mike, it's all love. I says, but it is all about P&L. This is what this business is all about. All right. You can't pay the mortgage. You can't pay the rent with compliance or anything like that. And it's a valid argument, but understand that Steph Curry, Wayne Gretzky, McKinnon, Drysdale, and all these other peak performers, right? They're not focusing on that. They're focusing on the process that's going to get them the P&L. So I'm really just taking the approach where I'm not going to say debate it. I'm just going to basically say, I'm going to go with the peak performers who are successful, and they're focusing on process, not on the P&L. All right, so I hope you got a little something out of this sort of lighthearted, unscripted version. Hope this makes out okay. Hope the editors aren't going to beat me over the head with a stick. All right, but understand that in anything in success process and successful planning is that approach to focusing on mastering the process, and the P&L will come. There's a lot of quirks that go along with it, and a lot of emotions that happen during the process. I understand too. It took me a while to get that muscle to build up, and I'm still doing it today. All right, and like we mentioned before, in the end, it all comes down to having a successful strategy with a positive profit factor over time. If you need help with that, just click on the link below. I'll just give you my strategy for free, and you can look at it and see if it's a good fit for you. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. The tomatoes are good, and I'm looking forward to this new batch. Should get about 800 in the next 2 weeks. Looking forward to it. The neighbors are certainly going to love it. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you learned something out of this. Let me know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, and what, the whole P&L thing, Mike, I totally disagree. That's fine too. It's all good. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.